again?
Yeah. And now
This one?
press the
Morning,
participants.
Good
Bhante.
morning, Bhante. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Bhante. Good
To
morning,
the
Brian.
left.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning, everybody. All can hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let us begin with the metta meditation. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth. May all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. As we repeatedly mention, let us focus our mind on our breathing, paying total undivided attention to the breath, and simply become aware of the breath, which is very neutral, universal, common denominator of all living beings. So here we begin the meditation on the one hand with unconditional loving friendliness, on the other hand, the subject that all living beings share equally, and that is very neutral, pure, simple. As the breath, it is also universal. Paying attention to this, we become aware of the breath touching the rims of our nostrils, expanding lower abdomen, and expanding our chest area. As we breathe out, we notice contracting our lower abdominal area, chest area, and leaving the breath leaving our nostrils. We notice this, and then as we inhale and exhale, we notice there are two pauses, one at the beginning of inhaling and the other at the beginning of exhaling, or one at the end of inhaling and the other at the end of exhaling. And then we also notice the feeling that we feel the breath, feel, and then we perceive the breath, and our thought of the breath, consciousness of the breath. And all these are not one single undivided entities. These are all bundles, activities, groups. The breath is a group of countless particles. Feelings are various kind of feelings. Perception also various perception coming through six senses. Thoughts are various type of thoughts. Consciousness also at least coming from six senses. Therefore, they are called groups or khandhas, aggregates. They all change as we breathe in and out. Then we notice that there is nothing special. Everything is marked with the same characteristic, and then we'll know that the mind let go of this clinging. Whatever clinging is there, there is no way that we can cling to anything. It is just mere thought that arises in our mind. And then also we relax all our rigidity, uptightness goes away. The body and mind relax. The breath relaxes. The body relaxes. Mind relaxes. In the relaxed state of mind, metta feeling takes root. And then that leads to compassion. We have been practicing this from March, keeping in mind those suffering beings all over the world due to this COVID-19. When we have compassion, our restlessness and worry fades away. And then mind becomes even more active, and sleepiness and drowsiness fade away. And then arises a moment of confidence, trust in our practice. We see the results of our practice. We can see the benefit as we practice. Then our doubt about the practice, the Buddha and Dhamma will fade away. When doubt fades away, we will have a joy that calms our mind even further, and then happiness arises to calm the mind still further, and then tranquility arises, then concentration arises. With the concentrated state of mind, naturally the concentrated mind sees the deepest changes taking place in our body, feeling, perceptions, thought, and consciousness. That always is happening, but until we gain good concentration without hindrances, we cannot see it very clearly. Now, this is the practice. This is how it happens. I gave all this in a nutshell, but you can see how it happens when you do it longer practice. And let us continue this practice right now. Dukkha Bhayapata Nibhaya Sokapata Nisoka Hontu Sabbe Pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering.
May the
Fear
fear
be
struck
free from
be
fear.
free from fear.
May
May
the
the
grieving be
grieving be
free
free
from
from
grief.
grief.
So
So
too
too
may
may
all
all
beings
beings
be.
be.
This is our earnest wish, metta wish. With this wish in mind, let me continue today's talk. I hope you all remember that we are talking on dependent origination. That is the theme, and we brought out many things as examples, and dependent origination begins with uh, ignorance, ignorance of the Four Noble Truths, ignorance of impermanence, ignorance of dependent origination. This is what is called ignorance. And ignorance also is not existing by itself. It also depends on asava. Asava depends on ignorance. And these are mutually supportive factors in the in this series of dependent origination. And then at least one of them has to be overcome to overcome the rest. And the one we were focusing our mind was asava. Asava means influxes, so taints. Uh, I mentioned there is a discourse called All Taints Discourse, Sab Asava. Although the title simply says Sab Asava, all taints, it gives us a way of overcoming these taints, these stains. We mention all the seven by name and explain them in some details. One is seeing, vision. Second is sangvara. Third is using, adivasana. Fourth is parivajana, avoiding. Fifth is overcoming. Sixth is associating. Uh, uh, then seventh is patience. The last is practicing the factors of enlightenment. And we describe factors of enlightenment, each separately, up to investigation of Dhamma. Investigation of Dhamma, where to find Dhamma to investigate. We mentioned we had to listen to Dhamma, memorize it, and then investigate. Memorizing is the easier part for some people. Some people cannot even memorize. But by constant repetition, we can memorize certain things. Once we memorize, then we have to investigate or look inside deeply into the meaning of what we have memorized. Just memorizing itself is not enough. And then in investigation, we gave several examples. Now we are still in that state, giving examples of for us of investigation. Let me start another part today. If we practice vipassana to investigate. In vipassana meditation, we don't have one particular object. Any object we can investigate, because every object, the object of our mind, is marked with big letters, three characteristics. Number one is impermanence. Impermanence is marked on every object. When we practice vipassana, we and pay mindful, undivided attention. This is the first characteristic we will notice in our guided meditation every day. I say that everything is changing, changing, changing. Nothing stays still, nothing fixed. Everything is changing. This is the most important aspect of vipassana meditation, seeing impermanence. You remember, I gave many, many examples. Sometimes, as Buddha was explaining Dhamma, the listeners uh, are very seriously captured by his very beautiful Dhamma explanation. And they pay total attention to every word. That is why Venerable Kondanya, the first monk, who the one of the first five monks, attained the stream entry by just listening to the first sermon. In the first sermon, Buddha did not say anicca, dukkha, anatta. But Venerable Kondanya listened very carefully because he is a very, very wise person. For wise people, they don't need too many things to see the truth. In his Buddha's life story, when seven astronomers were invited, astrologers were invited to predict his future, six of them lifted two fingers, but Kondanya, the youngest, the wisest, lifted only one finger and said, "This little prince will become the Buddha, nothing else." So he had that kind of insight even when he was a lay person. Anyway, when he became a monk, using that insight, that wisdom, he listened to the Dhamma. And Buddha simply explained the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path. But he attained the stream entry and made a declaration of his attainment. He did not say, "I attained Sotapanna." He simply said, "Yang kinchi samudaya dhamman sabbantan nirodhamman." Whatever is subject to arising, or whatever is of the nature of arising, has the nature of passing away. He saw the dependent origination and he saw the impermanence at the same time. Why? He very, with the critical mind, he absorbed in the teachings of the Buddha and he saw the underlying truth in all this. Because Buddha said that dukkha samudaya, samudaya means arising, and dukkha nirodha, cessation. Although he did not mention anicca separately, these two clue words, key words, clicked his wisdom, and he attained at the same time in stages. Before, at the end of the sermon, he attained the stream entry. He overcame his belief in self, permanent self, and then after some listening to sermon little further, he overcame his doubt. Then he continued sermon. Then finally he knew that he himself had been following all kinds of rituals before he came to the Buddha, and he knew that all these rituals did not help him at all to attain liberation. Only by understanding, realizing Dhamma, he can attain liberation. So that doubt disappeared, and that belief in rituals disappeared. These three happened in three stages, and finally, when the sermon was over, he was fully attained stream enterer. Now, this depends on the person's own attention, person's own wisdom, person's understanding, and person's own dedication. All depending on all this. That is why it is called dependent nomination. So, but if somebody does not pay, that is called mindful attention, does not pay mindful attention to see the root of arising of things, it is called yoniso manasikara. That person does not know. Kondanya saw this, had this, the root of origination of suffering with mindfulness. So he followed the teaching, the sermon very closely. That is called anupassana. Anupassana means seeing as it is evolving, developing, growing, explaining. His mind also grew, developed, and slowly his fetters fade away. Therefore, anupassana is very, very important component of vipassana, anupassana. If we don't do that, we can get our mind cluttered with all kind of ideas, theories, words, beliefs, rituals, and so on. Just like there's a creeper called Malwa creeper. I don't know what you call it in English, or root of banyan tree. Malwa creeper, when it grows on the joint of a twig, a branch of a tree, uh, at the beginning of the branch, and then it slowly grows and grows so wildly that so fast, so strongly that it completely covers the tree and suck the sap of the tree, and eventually you cannot see the tree. All you see is the Malwa creeper sitting on the dead tree. Similarly, another is banyan. Banyan tree is also, it begins with a very tiny seed, much small than mustard seed, and it grows and grows, and its root comes down and then settle in the ground, and then eventually they grow so much, so everywhere you hardly can see the main tree. Similarly, when we do not pay, we do not have anupassana and practice vipassana, we may clutter our mind with all kind of things, but and eventually we don't know where we go, and therefore many a time we get lost. We get lost in this jargon of thoughts, ideas, beliefs, and so on, and lose the central message, central meaning, the core of vipassana meditation. And therefore the growth of the vipassana, the results of the vipassana depends on how much we use anupassana, how much we clean our mind without without attracted by various things to go to various directions. So, therefore, we always must remember to look inside to see how dependent origination works within us. And always remember this formula: when this is, this is. When this arises, this arises. When this is not, this is not. When this passes away, this passes away. So, this is the very important thing to remember. As I mentioned, even avidya does not exist by itself. It exists depending on asava. And asava does not exist without avidya. These two all combine, work together. Now let us see this truth in the Dhamma. Dhamma, it is very interesting that the Dhamma has 6 qualities. The number 1 is swakata, well expounded. When we say well expounded, what do we mean by well expounded? Well expounded is mentioned in the soon after the first sermon, when the Buddha had 60 enlightened disciples, 60. Who are the 60? Including the Buddha, 61 Arahant in the world. There was a man called Yasa. He came with 55 of his friends, and these 55 of his friends and him 56. And then 5 ascetic who practiced asceticism with the Buddha. Now, they practice asceticism not for the sake of practice asceticism. The Buddha and these 5 of his friends. But it turned out to be asceticism, torturing the body, mortifying the body. Prince Siddhartha did not simply want to practice or mortify the body just for the sake of mortifying the body, as people think. What he did was, from the childhood, he was practicing meditation. And as he was practicing meditation from childhood, even after marriage, his mind was geared towards the practice of meditation. And this is a long story. I don't want to spend on that too much time. So when he left home at the age of 29, his mind is still very, very fresh with the idea of meditation, with the meditative attitude. And he wanted to achieve it, achieve the goal. Goal is the liberation from suffering and helping others to liberate from suffering. And therefore, it is just like today, for example, if somebody gives you a project, you take the project very, very seriously. You are going to get the biggest promotion, assuming that you are going to get the first prize if you do this project correctly. Then you day and night you work and work and work. While you are working, if somebody comes and your mother would come and ask you to come and have breakfast, you say, I cannot have breakfast, I am very busy. You work with the project. Then lunchtime comes. She would ask, come and have lunch. No, mom, I don't want lunch. I want to do this project. Evening time comes. She would ask you to come and have dinner. Oh no, I'm very serious. I want to do this job. So you forget your food. You forget to drink. You ignore. You take. You don't take even bath. You don't like to take rest. You don't want to do anything else. Your mind is so motivated, and the goal is so big. You are going to get the first prize, the number one in the world. So you keep working day and night. That is what Siddhartha Gautama did. He forgot, he did not care for food, drink, sleep, rest, and so forth. He worked on this project. What is the project? Project of mindfulness practice, meditation. And his goal was not, his goal was the first prize. What is the first prize? Attaining liberation, becoming the Buddha. And then he also had a duty to help others to liberate. And therefore he went on practicing. Then he realized, well, he clicked the spark first. And then now I need some strength. This is the time I need the strength to go out and teach Dhamma. And then he started taking food and so forth. And then Sujata came and gave him food. And then after eating that, he went to Buddha Gaya and sat down and continued his practice with more vigor, more courage, more strength, and he attained enlightenment. And then he was the first, and then other five also attained, came to join him and so forth when he gave the first sermon. And then Yasa and his 55 friends came and joined. Altogether 61 altogether. And after giving the second sermon, all of them attain full enlightenment. Slowly, gradually, they attain this state. And then it is recorded, he said, now we all are free from the trap of Mara. Trap of Mara is an embodiment of evil. Mara is an embodiment of evil that always gets in our way, block our path to attain liberation. Whatever gets in our way to block our way to the path to attaining liberation is called Mara. Mara. So Buddha said, now we all are free from that Mara. Now therefore, I want you, all of you, to go in different direction. Not two of you go in one direction. And teach the Dhamma. This is what is called Swakata Dhamma. I am going to explain. In order to explain what Swakata mean, I said all these things. This is sort of introduction to Swakata. Well expounded. Well expounded means Adi Kalyan. Buddha mentioned it in the discourse. Desayata bhikkhave dhammam Adi Kalyanam, Madhye Kalyanam, Pariyosana Kalyanam, Satang Sabhyanjanam, Kevala Paripunnam, Parisuddham Brahmacharyan Pakaseta. Santi Satta Aparajaka Jataka Asavanata Dhammasa Parihayati. Monks, the bhikkhus, this Dhamma beginning is excellent. Adi Kalyana. Kalyana means excellent. Madhya Kalyana, middle is excellent. Pariyosana, end is excellent. Satang, full of meaning. Sabhyanjanang, full of details. Kevala Paripurnang, completely perfect. Paripurna means completely perfect. Not like word perfect. Word perfect, as I mentioned sometimes ago, today is word perfect and next 6 months you get word perfect too. In the Buddha's teaching there is no uh, perfect two. It's only one perfect. Parisuddhang Brahmacharyam, pure holy life. What is the pure holy life is total liberation. Uh, Go and teach these people. Not two of them go in one direction, because if you two go, the your spreading Dhamma will be limited to certain area. But if you go 60 of them can teach the same Dhamma. So Buddha has so much trust and confidence in his own disciples. And go, he said. Now, what is the excellent beginning? Excellent beginning is Sila, morality, strong foundation. What is the middle? Samadhi, concentration. That is the trunk. And what is the end? Panya, wisdom. Wisdom blossom, that is the crown of this attainment, the first prize. And Buddha got it and he shared with others as he wanted to, as he promised. When he was practicing mortification, he's mortifying the body, he said, I have a goal. I have a goal. I have to get the first prize and I want to share it. He shared it with 60, the first five, and then 56 again, and then now 61 he shared, and then he said, go and share this. There are people with little dust in their eyes, little dust there. They can feel itch. They can feel itch. When you teach them, they wipe the eyes, get out the itch, and see the truth. See the truth. If we don't do that, they even can go blind. They keep, rubbing the eye. Similarly, there are people with some wisdom. They need very little instructions, and then they open their eyes and they see the truth. So, this is the dependent origination. What it, what is how can we say it is dependent? Depending on the Buddha's enlightenment, others attain enlightenment, depending on their enlightenment, others attain enlightenment. Buddha got the knowledge, depending on his knowledge, others got knowledge. Buddha got the vision, depending on his vision, others got vision. So, Buddha did not get all this by himself alone, but he has kept on practicing for many eons. Even in the last life, he kept on practicing. And the practice is the base. So depending on our development depends on our practice. And therefore, see the way the dependent origination works, so we can see in us. When we practice, we can see how our mind becomes clearer and clearer. If we do not, mind will remain cluttered, just like that banyan tree or malwa tree, or all the defilement will weigh us down. Our what you call conceptual proliferation will weigh us down, and we remain like Atlas man, heavy, holding heavy things and making the life very heavy. And this make us life light and enlighten. And therefore, that depends on our practice. And with this, I want to end this morning's Dhamma talk. And I want to wish again, as we did at the beginning, that may all those who are suffering from COVID 19 and they are helped by doctors, nurses, hospital staffs, and facilitators, and because of their compassion, dedication, devotion, sacrifice, they help these people to recover, and therefore, while these people suffering from COVID 19 recover due to the help of those compassionate people, and both parties will may live very long in good health and enjoy peace. And there are others who are having grief, and they must overcome their grief, especially when they see the Dhamma, practice meditation, see the truth in life and nature of truth. May they recover from their grief. There are others who are in many ways supporting others to recover from this grief, suffering, pain, using financial support. And there are some leaders who make right decision to help the world, and some other leaders who are still on the way to develop their wisdom, and may they have wisdom very quickly to make right decision and finally help this world with understanding and compassion, and may they all live long in very good health. Thank you, all of you, for listening, participating, and having this wonderful practice for your benefit and for the benefit of others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, Saranai.
Thank you,
Sadhu,
Bhante.
sadhu,
Thank you,
sadhu.
Bhante.
Thank you.
Saranai.
Thank you,
Right.
Brian.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Brian.
Bhante.
Sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu.
You all know tomorrow and day after tomorrow we don't
Sadhu,
have
sadhu,
class,
sadhu.
and
sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
you
Sadhu,
continue.
sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu Bhante.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bhante. Thank you,
Thank
Thank
Brian.
you,
you, Brian.
Brian. Thank you,
Thank
Bhante.
you.
Very okay. Thank you.
Sadhu.
Bhante.